there an email chain getting started?
No.
Because the internet's so bad.
I
I love it. Just walk up here one minute.
Alright.
I just need to throw up really fast. Give me 1 second.
Anyone not ready?
I'm so ready for my photograph.
Alright. Contention one is economic race and white supremacy is the unnamed political system that shapes the modern world. We must aggressively engage in a project to situate discussions of race and challenge these assumptions. Militant style white supremacy is the unnamed political system that made the modern world. There will be no mention of this system. This will mention not actual white taking race will frame so much better they not even see as political. It is the battle against all the systems of last one white humanity. What's needs goal theory frame will situate discussion race challenge these assumptions of white political philosophy. Now this system is reflected in that economic policy. The U.S. is not able to hold on to this core hegemony, threats to military intervention and nuclear annihilation. Said mocking are in the United States. The U.S. government core of policy international economic cross-based nationally or to maintain the balance of one of the main anti-legal local forces. Establishing the core of the economic autonomy includes training military dictators over the time-related government, threatening nuclear weapons in the country. The U.S. policy style is anti-state advocate war of global annihilation. Should the U.S. not hold any critical point to the world? The history shows that every government that even limited about how the foreign to be applied close figures to our government style of open door wars supported. The pattern was designed to keep conflict far away from any of the white ways. Now, Oriente is a perfect example. A predominantly Afro-Cuban province that was occupied military as Yucatan Sugar Corporation Americanized the region at the cost of local CRs. So Oriente was a hard-sold independent movement with racial agency much more less. It was Oriente with Joseph Real, Marty, Carlos Manuel. The assessment gave a historical reality. Yeah, most of the rebel victories were in Oriente. Oriente is home of the U.S. Naval Base in Guantanamo. The oldest U.S. Naval station outside U.S. territory. Oriente was a place African felt they could start new lives. It was the U.S. business started looking for American made supplies. Oriente was very attractive. The Brown game to favor the power country. Local plans at a difficult time. Bond United States to get their property back in shape after the war. The big short companies were buying as much land as possible. Courts constantly rule against local nature. Oriente underwent change that was about foreign stroke capital producer mechanization. By 1912, the trade with the state belonged to tension governments all for it. Now Afro-Cuban resistance to Corpus Christi was violently put down led to U.S. military occupation. Valeti 2001. Black army like Cuban government started province warranties of citizenship. Now the situation Cuban the public rapidly came with the consequence of national plantation. That limited colonial lands and small forms. Black Oriente attached to social price of foreign power that should have missed. The newspapers came with the planning Negro rights. Gomez was planning constitutional guarantee and organized to build administration with black people involved in the black people lives without mercy. The army killed the Afro-Cubans all over the island, left them buried, or the side roads left hanging in trees. The U.S. landed 1,500 days. The president pointing their anti-black lands. The independence is anti-Cubans who fight for the U.S. intervention. Now the Cuban Revolution took the land. Today, the U.S. advanced tax land they say is appreciating nearly $2 billion. As we 2009, between 1959 and 19 Cuban government national use action. Initially responsible to promote and no right to Cuban that right today probably the couple obligation to pay. The Cuban government responded that this week delayed the country's chaotic economic and financial situation. Cuba was to report to compensate. The Cuban government used the tax value as official value. The value seems to be $1 billion. Cash declared that bond payments is equivalent to just 1/4 of value. The FC's third value $1.82 billion. Cuba does not recognize the FC's retaliation or the Cuban policy. It stands ready to negotiate, but the U.S. refuses to engage Cuba. That's SB 2009. The Cuban government refused to negotiate. The transfer party claimants. Officials that upon rejected Castro nominated for powerful Cuba's military best negotiated use for arms negotiable privately caused by the Times. The CIA was acting plan to depose Castro. The adult Cuban negotiations delegation on appointed Castro. Both parties the U.S. government refused to claim U.S. marine contra face. Castro made secret offer to pay $1 billion. Was dismissed without any allowance. The U.S. government in terms of Castro land. The Senate claims of preventive restitution of U.S. as a contention to its bravery. Race must be rejected in every single instance. What do you think? That's maybe 2000 struggle against racial mixed with unless without contention. Racial united interference as well. And what can find a moral level of laws where it shouldn't be so racial civilization to the other. His also violence nomination. In judge violence all the society name so the world never refuse to racial ethical clans of political principles not have only conflict violence and destruction of land. Now, decision makers are not responsible for any of the actions of intervening actors. Along with the ruling that the plan action ethical use of all acts that's go within A2 when there is a cause of potentially self-representing and self-representing seeking current have the more responsibility between their intervening self-representing actions and self-representing those around circumstances. These significant acts more direct cause of conflict. The Martin Luther King was told that because like ever say support civil rights. He was responsible for a riot. However, his king opponent was responsible because of enemy operations physical condition for the riots. Now, nuclear war claims exaggerate by white elites. Steadily impacts outweigh their parliament. Nuclear war does not cause extinction. Martin 84. Well, all these are the more important people that will global nuclear war kill people in 2007. These acts were possible in nuclear war effect to white Western society. The joint Western nuclear war non-reported population will be small. The white tend to final part of the goal. It's exaggerating to one humanity. White Western tend to see the rest of the world versus dependent on themselves for desire. Now, the politics of temporality or our orientation class are a prerequisite to a liberatory discussion. Our pedagogy must reclaim the invisible plan instead of orientating toward a hypothetical future that's someone in history. That's vast concern that modernity is a politics that gears toward economics and political party. Oriented to the present from the past. Modernity imposes the universal claim that the present is only side of real one. Dismissing the past as archaic. The destruction of man proves invisibly tend on to depolarization. The modern politics side present of the generally the projection of past and future mentality and the opportunity with the present. Modernity is a based on the table of the future. Affirmation claims that we separate from the color view and illusion of the command. The object table of the present is what is the simulation of the future. Steadily only the future comes to light as a reflection of the planet. The violence of modernity was constantly justified. It's the namely rational totally. Fostering the devaluation of political autonomy. Constantly basing the future. Endless history positive time oriented toward the destruction of memory. The memory stands against rational totally against violence. A critical thing of the time to stop relation now. The linear history of modernity calls the question. Critical timeline. Recognize the simulation of modernity next to violence of blame. Now, our oriented time previous paradigms like rationality and aesthetically structures living experience. This is expelling to the Latin where officials and temporarily watch ongoing colonial encounter, challenging Eurocentric presentation, featuring is a prerequisite to overcome racial domination. That is the Legalism 2011. The key liberation is the way we see the one relation situated to understand the world. The will of total domination successfully also attack the lives of those who have been colonized. The colonies constantly the erasure of their existence, ordering become very system domination. Such a bad temporary disorder and pre-rationalized phrases, arrest annual level, class level, and economic global power, which has orders in the colonies of America, racial capital allocation, results in social places, direct coverage of the other crucial West Side, the Eastern is the same as not only grounded temporary colonies, the ordering of the existence, the European model of real coming to central Western style world of sense being feeling constant history of independence was in line temporarily. The past left life is below Western present, Western content, the concept at the time of the Euro experience, the kind of knowledge, people under the vehicle of a single present, time oriented, like American appropriation of the modern parallel, beyond the colonies of America, one side colonial, the manifest ability, economic domination, time operates successfully, that's the great privilege, that's the prime, no matter what the content knowledge may say, the privilege, and on the dot, and influence of critical project, the fatal rating page of a template must go over to this meeting engaging, the George Town, the Latin States, a regular colonial, give rise to configuration that very history of people. Now, scenario planning or the technical future relation is not an ideological new size and manufacturing the future and self-predicting, and this predictive view for nowhere legitimizes imperially racial. That is O'Brien to us and scenario planning stimulation called the world series increasing up so that scenarios will count about the future. The biggest indication illuminates the colonial spectrum of race. Scenario exercises to the loud color of the good announcement. No scenario focus on black line towns, right? If silent, even outside the perpetuate each scenario planning. Next activity name will go through scenario planning led art and democracy, but just art and the boldly matched by scenario planning remains article and evil lines of rate, sorry, being outcome. So the important element is basically scenario planning, a historical perspective, any sense of reflection of the frame of scenario planning, dependent on who's claiming your past and that's audio power relations, absence of reflecting emphasis on the science of scenario planning. Scenario planning on the market, historical scenario planning, absent for the kind of future they help produce scenario planning works a straightforward linear or framework, grounding the total lines of the order, the little bit economics. Now, the maintenance of future planning through scenario projection is the crucial interrelated to coloniality and extinction. That's Cuba in 2010. The demonstrating power aspires to finance what it has, the philosophy of possible notions of coercion and Carlin enforcement credibility problems, reinforcing the last sentence by destroying violence. What to sing like the imperial how US today's temporary rights of freedom, God limits scope, aspires to world creating the most interesting world running all this sort of world. Now, basing Cuba policy and fear and insecurity guarantees lash on policy failure. Well, history is called 11. People focusing on outcomes and acting with collective code. The official world case name was justified and you can spend it. There's pre-application with low private crimes and risk of race on the street and style of message and quality by ability to use information to make what's keeping a volunteer match, what's keeping outcome. That team time certainly something imagination for thinking, foster following the way it makes us more prone to expect spasticity to make it by setting the wood process while acting less likely. Worst case focus on only extreme power. It does a poor job of assessing outcome. Use subordinate position or the opposite. Which side like it's trying to handle the enemy strike force to prevent exploit. I would say US will act in America. Okay, right. What should I fully forward? Iraq was justify the worst case name was the same. I started the pre-consequence offers so guided. And yes, to produce with God with introduction of counter release. Now the framing behind our advocacy is critical. Bleaker 2005. This course ran with the subject of capable only offer possible agency. Political agency to maintain policy of infrastructure rather than shape the social content. These actions are not public as CC and the make discovery. The greatest factor are seal aside war results of founding inventors of new values. A crucial site political investigation that institute. The fundamental point is always outside institution. His step of limited power eventual institution. One with answer institution of sovereign population. Thus he planned. The United Federal Government should even engage with the Republic of Cuba, reduce exported land claims in Cuba, contention 3 solvency, expropriated license, empirically never paid up following the Cuban government's no exception, bilateral negotiation with Cuba will prodigate for these agreements. Actually, because of all the past claims selling, claims very people compensation, full certified by no people alive fully insured, bilateral claims selling, no coaching Cuba, the approach part of the Cuban government, agreement with the family FC, full master certified FC, all stolen, not contradicts a million both value, all U.S. investment, the Cuban FC using dollars past will find support in the Bureau economic analysis, this might use by the MP of Cuban compensation about party was by fraction of the certified value claims like Cuba. Now the retelling narrative is the only challenge dominating that notion of history currently surrounding the United Federal Government. That's tough and equal to us. No history side of themselves, emphasizing how the characters of times of holding history of resources excluded. Critical have question of etc. The race of US nation, US and question the suits and history had not so country style domains. So call for example history of the nation made on way offset history of the nation, archaeological officer point, increasing the issue with race of history that there's no unified only concept of alternate country holding. This round of opportunity to study this learning.
We're gonna take some prep. I'll take a card. No, it's fine. I'll take it out. You just flash next to it.
Yep. Alright. Why vote Aff?
Because negotiating with Cuba and reducing expropriated property is a good idea.
Okay, do you argue that there is a reason to vote affirmative, I guess, external to the plan text being a good idea? Okay, what is that reason to vote affirmative?
There's multiple. There's discussion of race, refiguration of the politics of temporality.
Okay, so let me
me
get this clear then. Your outlets for solvency are not limited to the plan text. However, you say that because the 1AC incorporates an ethical discussion of racism, the judges should vote affirmative, and you claim that that would sort of help solve your impacts, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your argument. So which piece of evidence, I guess, then says the plan is necessary?
The piece of evidence that says that Cuba still is subjected to this giant economic racist debt.
Okay, but obviously, we don't have the capability to do the plan as, debaters. So then what's, I guess, your outlet for solvency to pay back the debt?
Solvency is we have multiple pieces of evidence, like the Mills evidence that says that we as intellectuals need to introduce the discussion of race.
Oh, so your outlet of solvency then is not as so much about the plan as it is about the discussion of racism, correct?
Both.
Okay, but then, okay, that's fair enough then. I guess the Aff talks about Afro-Cuban resistance, about how, I guess, that started to become successful in Cuba, or is not yet successful. I was kind of confused about that argument. Can you explain a little?
So that started looking at history, aka our politics of temporality. Back in the past, Afro-Cubans were getting their land stolen by multinational corporations from the U.S.
And I guess how is the affirmative sufficient to overcome that?
The reason why these Afro-Cubans resisted was because their property was being taken. And that was because, and the resistance was violently put down because of the fear of U.S. military intervention or economic racist policies. Okay. That is why the Afro-Cuban resistance was taken down in that history.
So I gotta cut you off there then. So your argument then, I guess, what I'll assume is that these U.S. policies are promoting the corporate domination is kind of part of a larger trend of like structural racism and otherization, correct?
Of course.
Okay, so the problems inherent to like what the plan tries to fix seem to be like symptoms, right, rather than seem to be symptoms of a broader racist society. So how is the plan sufficient to overcome that if it just targets that symptom?
Very silly, because the symptom of racial society is what we're challenging, the global theoretical framework.
And you're understanding. Sorry, can I make something clear? You're challenging the overarching structure via your, I guess, performance of the 1EC rather than the plan text itself, correct?
I said both.
Okay, both. What's the role of the plan text in challenging the larger structure of societal racism if we're kind of in agreement that that is more of a symptom rather than the cause of racism?
We need to keep institutions accountable. The TOC evidence says that there's static notions of history currently surrounding the United States federal government that need to be challenged.
I guess that's fine. I got another question then. Why does the U.S. currently refuse to engage Cuba?
The U.S.?
Yeah. That is because the U.S.
thinks that Castro won't last.
Okay, because we think that Castro won't let us engage.
No, that's the Castro won't last. So they think
won't last.
that
I gotcha.
once
Okay, that makes sense.
So how much are we at? 8K.
I'm gonna wait.
I got it.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to read these. Yeah.
Maybe I'll read
Like 11?
Yeah. You can go to breakfast.
Yeah, that's true. And plus,
There's a really good breakfast place right up the street.
what is it called?
First Watch. Yeah, we did it on
We're
the
gonna
building right
go
there.
I
Yeah.
really wanted to go
It's
there.
really good.
I heard it was really good
It's
too.
yummy.
Darn it, I really want to go there.
They open early. They open at like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Before.
That's a really good idea.
It's yummy. And they were super
That's
awesome
actually
about
really
like,
close to our hotel.
yeah, they were like super awesome about like accommodating our larger group and everything.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I don't know, Britta was like, you can bring dinner back and like eat during your break. And I was like, yeah.
That's not what I was trying to do.
I love that so much. It's so sweet. He was like, maybe ice cream?
Does he know?
Oh yeah, we told him the day. He's like, yeah, we don't pick that up. So then May would be 13. We start off with 30 days. So then 16. Yeah,
about that stuff. We're not going to
Yeah, we're stopping proud.
6:35. 6. Yeah. Lots of nerds there, Colin. What's the first contention title?
Say what?
The first contention called?
Economic racism.
So you're just going to accommodate?
I stand to superior.
Well, there you go.
Let's go on. They're nice. Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be 4 off and then just the framing page.
Where's that pen?
Do you need a pen?
What?
Do you need a pen?
I like my pen.
Fair enough.
Looks like I'm not going to get mine.
Yeah, use a black pen.
But I use a blue. I'm good.
I have this.
G2s are superior.
You guys good?
Yes.
First time is the cap game, basic politics, and the virtuous violence, racism, gloss over the political economy, legitimizes neoliberal ideologies, defense class hierarchies, greed, and the treated crimes, business, legislation, the government, the elections, like our work, and all the press to be realized, the whole state is in place, the back in place, reverse capitalism, new order, the past, the action, the extraction, the place, the first two valuable, the like as a slave relation, the less first, respect, on the left, the reducing branches, the S mechanism, the Isra slave, the sort of police, making their economic journey based pressing opportunity, brutality, was the point of slavery, north, and justice, advances, that put on the country, the life, the settlements, and consistency, the foreign trust, and the culture, the benefits of the indicating more neoliberal ideology, the representation of our rights, the situation, the strong direction of maximum competitive, capitalism, inheritance, intellectual, shallow politics, these claims, the arguments, the engagement, access, race, politics here, capitalist ideology, the controversy, neoliberalism, universalism, the policy, social context, this, believe that racial equality, exception, humanity is needed, liberate, racial, the positive society, the most destructive, darker ways, the most disturbing detail is the balance of life to keep together, the bottom, the spine, the political, economic, economic force, the direction of the interpersonal dynamics, and substitute recognition, for policy, discourse, the perspective, whether this, displaces and all challenges, such as reproduce equality, all, or indiscrimination from the liberation, part of the state for the government, institutionality, based on political action, which they reflect as to the spirit, is inequality, goes, corrupts, and race and gender, paleness, comparison, perspective, class, and oppression, and serves as an underlying system that sanctions racial violence. 1, and 5, the tendency of establish that those classes, state, or representation, civil, hospital, construction, environment, civil, production, class, and the fact that the impact of the those subjects, class analysis, plus not that word acknowledgement. 1, that is supposed to idealize the class analysis of theoretical records for understanding race and different classes, relational construction, determined by ideology, change, racial, racial development, social conspiracies, and the military rejectee. System, the unmasking season of practice, struggle analysis, related reduction, was an enemy, material, or individuals, interaction by natural knowledge, dominant, deliverance, limited, systemic domination, racial justice, not significant. The theories of justice, political economy, are irreconcilable, social exploitation, errors, international relations, series, ultimate neutrality, running from, engaging in dominant discourses, as well as compromises, revolutionary aspirations. The alternative is born in politics, is the only correct criticism of an end to itself, right? Called Occupy, was a victim and critical of the Jam, said the Tea Party, developing party, the majority of the House is over, the senators, its own name, became the African, what does it ever feel? It seems like a philosophy of the rhetoric, reality, doing, durability of power, recklessity, better ability to live with your office, for short last year, over and government, protect board, which only already maintains the laws requirements, which will not remain the experience of protesting. Next up is the counterplans. Tax the United States federal government should economically engage with the Republic of Cuba to reduce expropriation land claims against Cuba and adopt such measure only if it can be made consistent with the human rights ratified by the United States. The counterplan solves the results of the implementation of the fund. In 11, HRIS is supposed to get to the policy related to the proposal of the index as well as the area of the proposed policy should be consistent with human rights and human rights analysis in each all states of the proposed policy is possible to control the human rights rationale and mechanisms for implementation human rights laws as well as possibly human rights in years and possibly getting results. Using more effective policy than implementation, it competes against theoretically legitimate to pick up the economic engagement, responsible engagement strategies to be broad human rights compliance force. And 2, the responsible engagement goals are mentioned not only law but also human rights. The responsible engagement is not benefits of integration, all of the council human rights, responsible engagement, the trade alternative, everyone responsible engagement to human rights is endorsed through our international law, according to our house and according to human rights, human rights impact assessment. Each measure required by the intervention of those undergo its own human rights impact assessment. Next off is Topicality. The debate is a referendum on the desirability of the plan. If we prove that the plan is either a bad idea or an undesirable starting point for social change, we should win. That's key to negative predictability. It's the only way that we have capacity to engage the act. If we know that the plain text is bad, we should live because that is what we are given to debate. If not, their extra topic, which is a voting issue for unloaded fiat. It means I think how we start at the topic of fiat things that are the topic, which moves the discussion away from the topic, which is inherently unpredictable, also makes it unfair and impossible to be negative. It's key to engagement and dialogue. It's the only way that we can have a productive discussion about the topic or about the act. Otherwise, we have no idea what they are going to say, and we're forced to go for something generic in the semifinals of the TOC. Now, next up is illegal. The act has the right idea but provides the wrong solution. The legacy's assumption that a starting point of legal ruling combats state violence rearranges the legal card deck by reaffirming the sovereignty of law in the state. It sanitizes violence in terms of case Cressman. And 12, a new debate aims to reestablish more human rights and independent procedural safeguards. On the other hand, it recognizes the existence of new mechanisms in the act of 9, 11, 7 goes more law, just sort of regard to necessary law, not only constraints but also authorizes government interference approaches that try to balance security and liberty are really able or willing to expose fully the trade-offs of the normal increase of the bill response to crimes given or overcoming certain regardless of accepting it from the side institutional arrangement. They foster the culture of justification to exercise the state power to be justified by the law. These accounts simply add more of the same to legal principles and institutional arrangements. Law is a step one in particular to security matters. Constitutionally, it constantly transforms itself. Their affirmative defense method of a legal chance is presuppose the legitimacy of the law. It replaces the de facto process ordered in 87. The differences of laws is amending this feeling that takes us through the way they are to make changes down to make it more clear. It's the claim that law has reflected directional techniques that prove that it's close to or likely to ever get to solid leader of this court's paints an idealized fantasy of legal norms, institutions, and doctrines can be rational and rational frequency of operation. These support the science and all the structure our perceptions of reality so as to systematically recognize alternative visions of social life. Carefully understood all the communities to be invoked support called explosion transformation. Such claims present some illegitimate rhetorical and empirical assumption. Further, the legal discourse often produces such seriously distorted representations of social life and their method for change in mere bureaucratic vernacular, which displaces most effective solutions and sees agency over violence and guarantees that the plan fails. Chorus, it ain't the legal ways to smother and misplace discussions which would be more appropriate and necessary and have a base and create the laws of the rule. We might as well find other solutions. Lawyers have been restricted by the language and try to utter effectively themselves and others illegal language, not speak to their voices to be against their own creators. The evaporation of individual moral responsibility, the language of the law displaces human responsibility for death and suffering of the warrants to others. The bureaucratic vernacular, this personalization, the lessons of this personal responsibility are evidently also favored by the external social structures and all these ways to step back from the terrible responsibility and freedom that comes with the discretion to kill, vote negative, to embrace their social interrogation of racial oppression, but to reject their method of legal changes to shake the rug out from under the legal system by engaging in active criticism. Cigarette 84. What are we supposed to believe and how are we supposed to live? We should no longer view the problem of making a radical foundation for laws and worthwhile endeavor. Philosophers who can shake the rug out from underneath this existing thought. They do not argue against program political units. They strive to make us realize that our views are matters of amendment rather than knowledge. For the surveys and legal theorists provide us active criticism of the legal system. We can demonstrate a wider range of alternatives. This kind of criticism would be useful even if we cannot imagine a satisfactory alternative. Now, the framing page. Predictions have the capacity to be sufficient and Simmons and 7, where analysis is silent or inadequate. The personal ways to avoid the environment that lacks clarity and ambiguity allows institutions to drive interpretations without careful analysis of what is relative to like the decision maker is left with. Beliefs poorly understood by the decision makers themselves. Ontology is not the only consideration. Owen, and 2, the negative psychological terms that it has a tendency towards ontology over different powers, electoral, merely function of forward, different powers, when no independently local the rational choice and pride. Powerful accounts may be confused with the advocates of rational choice cannot get good account of why this is not undermine the rational choice and not the best kind of available to us. Ontology, to this speech is not the most important. The current is ontology, but the theories of the problem for course theory to work in reduction is where other explanations for the phenomena, especially in social scientific inquiry, not to be prejudged before conducting that inquiry. This slips into the promotion of generality over empirical validity of mission circle arises.
I've got a minute.
I'm set.
Yeah, I'm open to process.
You're open for cross. So, I want to know what gratuitous violence is.
Gratuitous violence. I don't have a definition for it. Tommy, do you know the definition of gratuitous?
I'm not sure, like, the dictionary definition. The argument is just that the starting point of a racial interrogation precludes a necessary starting point of a one that focuses on class arguments, says that that's
So, you're going to question, what is gratuitous violence?
I'm not sure the
So you're saying
dictionary.
things without knowing
Would
what
you
they are?
like me to look it up in the dictionary?
No, I'd like you to explain your
You're not
own
gonna find
argument.
it.
Well, I think Tommy just explained the argument, which is that when we look at symptoms instead of causes, it can cause that type of endless violence to
What are the
occur.
causes?
Sorry?
What are the causes?
What are the causes of what?
Racial oppression.
Yeah, so we read a piece of evidence that says that racial oppression is a symptom of a larger struggle of class inequality. What created race and the constructs of race historically was inequality and the way that wealthy people took advantage of poor people.
Okay, so wealthy people took advantage of poor people.
Yeah.
How does that explain then why Europeans enslaved Africans instead of just enslaving Europeans when they're closer and cheaper and didn't have to sail on a boat together?
So a couple of things. One is that Europeans did enslave Europeans. It happened on a much smaller scale. Second is that when Europeans began to colonize Africa, the reason that they did enslave Africans was partially because it is cheaper. A lot of our link evidence, not sure if you read them in 1 and C, will cite other examples of different instances where there were white people who enslaved white
Extra
people.
T. So you say it's key to net predictability, and that only the plain text should be the focus for change. Am I correct?
Yeah.
The law that we presented. How is this not a direct contradiction or impact to your fourth off-case argument that says our only focus on bureaucratic vernacular is a bad thing?
Hold on. We never said you need to defend the federal government. Our argument is that the debate is about the 1AC, you can't kick the plan. That's pretty much what our argument is. You cannot kick the
Then what the hell is this extra T standard?
It's just like, you can't say that I don't know, you want to explain it? I don't want
The
to
framework argument we presented in the 1 and C was that you cannot kick the plan.
We cannot kick the
Yeah,
plan.
if you do not kick the
But
plan,
we can
you
weigh the rest. We can win based on things not off our plan text. Am I correct?
Exactly, and I would
Good.
agree with you.
So you said this piece of Gordon evidence. I mean, not the Gordon evidence. This piece of Crossman evidence. No, where is it? The piece of contrast evidence is that miring in bureaucratic vernacular displaces more effective solutions. So this process counterplan adds more bureaucratic vernacular. So why isn't this another direct?
So I don't think that the process counterplan adds vernacular that's bureaucratic. I think that it goes through a process that's more effective.
Conditioning the plan on only ratifying a human rights
so
treaty is not
You're
extra
misunderstanding the
bureaucratic.
argument the contrast evidence makes. It just says that when we sort of focus on laws and say that this law is the problem rather than society as a
So,
whole, that displaces
okay.
our individual agency and
What is ontology?
responsibility for the
What is
problem.
ontology?
I mean, do you want me to give you a dictionary definition? Obviously, ontology has a lot of different meanings.
Okay,
this
what
is
does
a
it mean
really
in terms of
nebulous
your-
and generic.
I'm taking prep for this. What is ontology?
Do you want to answer that?
You would
I have
like-
a dictionary
I can
definition.
look it up in the
Shift,
dictionary if
shift.
you'd like.
I want an explanation of your own argument.
Okay, well I can't get on the internet, but I can try to look it up.
Look, my point is, why doesn't this card take out your 2 Ks that are about ontology?
Because the K is not about ontology.
Then what is ontology?
What is ontology is probably, I think some philosophers define it as the state of being. That's not what the K is about whatsoever.
Wait, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
What's up? Thanks. Oh,
My question is, sorry.
Hey, second prep. Stats of all 40.
condition.
Oh, boy.
What's the name of it?
It's gonna be case. First is gonna be the economic racism load.
Wait a minute. Where'd you flow into case cards?
Framing.
Okay.
Solvency.
Hey, can you give it to them?
Yeah, I did. The Topicality. I believe the counterplan.
Do you want this, Michael? Or you
I don't know.
The state critique. And then the, what do you want to call that forced position?
Which one are you referring
The
to?
one up, state bed?
You can call it the legalism critique if you would like.
Legalism critique.
So, economic racism, framing, solvency, T, counterplan, cap, legalism.
No,
Yeah.
legalism cap.
Wait, which is it? Because I thought you
I
said
thought you said
legalism
state.
cap.
I thought you said
Oh, I
state.
said legalism then cap.
Legalism then cap.
Yeah.
All right.
Right? Ready?
No, 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 no.
The one NC has conceded the Mills evidence is damning when they says that there is an unnamed political system that dominates social decision on whose mission is not access to political philosophy and silent on the discussion of race and how it manifests in the dynamics of modernity. Now, extend the Makajini evidence that who is a hometown boy for College Park and is the president of the Institute of Maryland Energy and Environment. It's the only evidence that properly evaluates nuclear war in connection to racialized system that nuclear policies that decisions have been made. Our evidence says that governmental policies have led to internal economic alliances across the race and national in order to maintain the violence. These status quo since they have conceded the entire impact of the way, so you have to prefer this over their generic critique or their counterplan. Now go on to the framing one. The negative does not come into grip with temporality, role of time, coloniality, the attempts to erase and obliterate the past by subordinating everything into a politics of the future. The voice of the past are drowned out by false screams of emergencies. Instead, we need to maintain the past as a site of resistance or active memory instead of a museum of monuments. That's Vasquez. Now, this is a trump any impacts. It's a priority question because every aspect of daily life is shaped by how we interact with time. The evidence is literally mind-blowing. Now, now the temporality slays the critique. They can't absorb or account for it. It's not, instead, it's a whole orientation. The starting point must be revisiting our past events before making any declaration of future emerging advancements. Comparing ways in politics, they've had the version of politics of future. But like says a prior, because our perception of time shapes our whole orientation, means that the whole aesthetics that the critique is based on is one of futurity and cannot incorporate our politics of temporality. Now go on to topicality first. I'm gonna answer the stuff. First, their prediction cards does not make sense. Predicting scenario planning is a bad thing because it causes the future where people will manufacture events just to make it a desired outcome. This has been used by Shell in the past 30 years and has not been successful, led to economic losses. And also, even if predictions good, we have comparative evidence on what the role of development should be. That scenario planning and future predicted methods should be rejected. They don't have any offense by looking at the past is bad. So this is only on defense argument. We have comparative evidence. Now, the ontology evidence does not apply to us because we are talking about race. Ontology is the sense of human being. If we read Wilderness and critique, maybe we would critique how the black body is ontologically dead. However, the system of racism is not as a political thing. As Mammy says, any legal reform is indicated by racism. Now go on to T. First is the counter interpretation. We will defend the consequence of the plan, but we will still get an advantage of speaking of the plan. First, it's going to be reciprocity. You get your K discourse that distorts the fairness argument because it has to have an equal division around the objectivity. If our discourse doesn't matter, that makes it an objective lens where we are never attached to anything. We say that's the worst type of violence. Now, this is a topical version of Aff that everyone was screaming about before. If you say we cannot discuss racism while defending fiat, then you are definitely exclusionary. Now go on to the human rights the counter plan. First, it's going to be conditionality is a voting issue. Our interpretation is pre-run conditionally cultural late developing debates where we never read the good evidence, get into the nitty-gritty argument, and leads to bad clash and bad advocacy skills. Second, it's illogical. What do you defer to? One critique alternative, the other critique alternative counter plan. Logic is the only portable real world skill. Now, concerted immediacy competition is a voting issue. Just by counter that results in the entire affirmative, which makes it possible for the two to generate offense. That is impacted by class condition. It's what led to the current reality of Cuba, Brutality over six. The United Fruit called it banana after during time of South America, potential supremacy over the dominance led to Central America policy small counter policy towards the United States proposal to compete for American approval and representing opposition or for that right privilege. This political model accommodation definitely led to repressive regime or economic condition. The U.S. did not either setting it for now permutation to the counter has to be technically and functionally competitive. The accommodation is critical to generate the opportunity cost avoid the extreme levels. Cuba will say no, so we look at 13 over. The U.S. does not see likely the problems on roads to not supporting the state alternative relationship with the U.S. does not but you can provide meaningful and broader versus concession to United Cuba and normalization. The issue of Cuba and the U.S. is not negotiate, not permutation to lose the plan and condition lifting the embargo on human rights. Now, yeah. The human rights net benefit is a racist one. The United States the House doesn't name it human rights to invade other places like Iraq and Afghanistan and say that, oh, we're going to help the human rights. The reason that we have conditioned human past about these expropriated properties is what led to the current status of human status quo. Now the legalism critique, permutation to vote, the alternative plan plus because we are a negative state action. We say that the United States should stop dominating Cuba and get rid of the debt. If the U.S. if we reject the United States in the plan, then there is no link to discrete. All the reason why the state is bad is the reason to vote affirmative engagement means we know the taxes of the oppressor. Permutation, a politics of infiltration, rules, insanity is erroneous in saying one can actually oneself, political self to exercise power over the government, which resides in great bear, which is operating costs, and join the mass government, when vital organs of power, relationship to go away with mess and oppressor becomes daily, people know how effective struggle tax plan and now said that subject to the application of mental maps impaired to that people enter the establishment. Now the way is static in political action, we instead call to follow Valclub Hadel, who toppled Czechoslovakia's totalitarian regime, which moral engagement and political activism killed us in 96, the simply less than for intellectual impossible to bring down totalitarian regime by gradual transformation of human consciousness. It's not possible if we know the history of revolution suggests that when I happened without moral engagement and political activism, intellectual full excited developing the liberating philosophy frame the politics mobilize the will of the group and explode into development revolution. Hegel wanted the logical cruel political strategy. Also, you cannot critique the legalism. How are you going to get rid of the races that we hold over Cuba in the first place? Go back onto the counterplay. First, you're going to extend the legal card that our discourse is what matters in the counterplay. So even if the counterplay itself, you have to weigh the moral discourse of the 1AC. You cannot capture the impacts of the discourse of the 1AC just with the 8-second flash. Now go on to the capitalism critique. First, their link card is from an article called The Django Unchained, or The Health or How Cultural Politics. This is a movie review and not talking about what the affirmatives are. We are critiquing a policy of economic racism. That's why the first contention is named economic racism. How the U.S. has used neoliberal policies to develop, dominate Cuba and use these expropriated properties to get concession Cuba. There is absolutely no link. Now, permutation endorses a critical examination of capitalism through the framework of the affirmative. Now, additionally, embracing the critique of loans fractures, coalition, and Detroit chain, just creating any political strategy to combat racism. Western naivety, branches is directed blind black, yellow, red people, integral elements of U.S. history. The Western consensus race and prevent U.S. socialist movement from anti-racist activity, black suspicion, when dominated political movement, as well as the discipline, the daily experience of people calling out from the fight race. Effectively, the only effective way to move and break down this is to be essentially to critical and important anti-racist struggle constant. Anti-racist struggle is both in the active imperative political, that's a different socially. Even more urgent, racist policy becomes more accepted. The alternative fails to build a coalition and leads to racial oppression. This is Ross in 2000. Left urges us to go back to crafted political left as a time reflecting existing racial division, start with the proposition and possible, making a persuasive appeal to the interests of working unemployed women and men, regardless of race. Standing on the left depends on who is left. We're talking about touting a class as the fundamental stance of the left idea is just another way of telling everyone else to shut up. Is a left or white person will be leader claiming to lead a black towards the promised idea. Left or straight man leader claiming to lead a woman or queer for a number of conflicts, rationalization, economic class remains the only identity where a straight white middle class man can still feel comfortable. He is something overcome extremely. That is the only identity that really matters. Now focus on racial identity politics. The united class struggle fails to address striking groups within the working class. It's a Ross in 2000 rather than offshoring and post-identity world. Can manifesto look back to identity politics different rights? What do we move from manifesto politics to a specific gender? What do we support? Do we no racial profile? How do we determine the gender advantage, economic justice? Do we lobby the neighborhood who is still segregated by race and class? Such an essence push our enough symbols on politics, and they are the issues identity politics can handle effectively those who live in an upscale community. Regard those identity accepted and any attempt to raise a common interest in the class and strategically group within the working condition. Contradictions are still going to be a voting issue because it's the same one for whiteness. This was an example of when they say we should use a counterplan to condition Cuba and then critique legal reform. Not going to critique 95 whether or not discriminatory possible position once a contradictory important element in construction whiteness that these contradiction whiteness is able to maneuver around the challenge and garner its power through its ability to be made things that wants to be universal source of any different contradiction of the diamond lines of power that reach space war is this. Now permutation do both. I'll go back to the state legalism. Now, they are an example of racial oppression, avoiding discussion of political reverts back to historically discriminated educational practice utilized to disempower and suddenly blacks to an inferior position within society. Woodson in 33, the Negroes have a better chance of political matter, the Boston valuable alignment. The early Negroes are not supposed to discuss the issue of the day as free trade terror, the workforce and the legal nation, the legal worker, to tell the people how politicians seek the offers of one or Negro reference or another important task of the Negroes and doesn't put how also when the Negro was a highly favorable party who was doing so much without race.
Okay, you know, you need to talk now.
What's it?
635.
Yeah. So you guys had our flash drive just because he's going to need it.
Does it look like this?
No, it's this one. Michigan.
Alright, you all set?
Yeah.
Okay. So if the act increases economic engagement, why is it negative state action?
Why is it negative state action?
Yeah.
We would say that we are economically engaging Cuba to get rid of the debt.
Okay,
We
so
say those bilateral negotiations we enter with
Yeah.
Cuba is the economic engagement. However, the result is the reduction of debt. That allows, one, is the first step to around, I guess, like U.S.-Cuban trade.
Sure.
So who says we increase economic engagement? The plan text said economically engaged. Where's the word increase?
well, the thesis of the 1EC is that we're barely economically engaged
The
with Cuba
thesis
now.
of the 1EC is that we should engage them to reduce that racist debt we hold over their heads.
So do you increase economic engagement or no?
Yes, but it's also a negative state action.
How is that possible? How do you increase economic engagement and
How's
be a
that possible?
negative state action?
What we
It's
have.
Wait, let me phrase it this way. If the state was gone, the act would still be solved.
If the state was gone,
The act
Think about it.
would
The
be
critique
solved.
is
you could still
the
solve the
critique
act.
is critiquing legal reforms. If you get rid, you're saying the state is bad. If the state was gone,
You
off the
use
face of the planet,
US
the debt would also be gone.
economically engaged
Therefore, it's
Cuba.
technically plan plus.
Like if we increase economic engagement, like make a trade agreement with Cuba, that's
Right.
impossible if the state was gone. But if the U.S. was
Right,
gone,
but you
that's
just said
gone
that
too.
the plan increases. You agree, just like, I guess this is a better way to get my answer. You agree that the plan increases economic engagement within
Yes.
the governments of U.S. and Cuba.
Yes,
Like, you agree with that.
yes, I do agree with that.
And the type of economic engagement is like a conversation over the debt. Obviously, like, there's like different ways that can happen. You agree with that as well.
Bilateral negotiations, yes.
Okay, fair enough. So, what about the discourse of the 1AC on its own is sufficient to solve for?
You would say that
you don't like that
we
word.
would-
What about the 1AC? It's racial discourse, not racial discourse, what about the one he sees discourse is sufficient to solve for an
Well,
impact?
that's
on
the second card on our solvency contention, the Trafalgar card, which says that retelling the narratives of the United States is critical to challenging those static notions of the United States, that the United States was the Cuba. Like the current narrative, we would say is Cuba refused to negotiate with the United States because they were communists. However, we have read these Ashby cards which said that Cuba tried to negotiate with the U.S., but the U.S. refused. It's the opposite around.
Yeah, definitely. Makes a lot of sense to me. So what about having that discussion in this debate forwards, resolving any of the harms that you presented in the 1AC?
The harms presented in the 1AC is an instance of economic racism. I believe that we are rejecting the economic racism.
Okay, so us having this discussion is sufficient to reject economic racism.
So I'm confused. We would say that one, our discourse is valuable in itself. However, that the plan is also necessary to get rid of the debt.
Okay, but what is yeah, definitely. What does discussing getting rid of the debt do to actually get rid of the debt?
Because we fiat a plan that gets rid of the debt.
Yeah,
that's the
my
fiat
question.
portion of the affirmative.
Right, and I'm asking you, what about that resolves the harms that you presented in the 1AC?
Well,
There are
one,
societal
the
practices.
racist steps
That's
not there,
cool.
and two, we're
Okay,
rejecting
so we have
that.
608. Yep.
Yeah, I actually you got it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, what you're supposed to, yeah, I know.
Sure. Yeah. What was the author of the first card you read on the legalism K? It was like where politics and infiltration.
Williams.
Okay, gotcha. Are you reading all highlighting or just green?
Green.
Okay. No. Yeah, sorry. I'll do it when
No, I actually, you know what? I have it. I have it. I've got it. Hey, Gabe.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. You didn't say permanent growth in the counterpart, right?
I did.
Where was it?
Permutation goes, I believe there's like this Wiki, right? I think the Cuba says no card.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I must have missed it. Thanks.
No trouble this time.
Okay, I'm stopping prep, but let me know.
No, I have it already.
Oh, okay. So I have 258 left.
here.
Yeah. You want to type this one? So the order is going to be the like framework topicality argument, followed by the case page, then the critique.
But that case page, you mean the framing stuff?
Yeah, so framework, I mean like the topicality, like you need to.
Well, the case page, you mean the cards that are in the 1MC, not the race page.
Yeah. Yes. Followed by the cap critique, then the legalism critique. The latter, the two critiques, third is one.
Hey, topicality is before the case page.
Yes, topicality is first.
Cool.
Okay. Are we all set? Okay. Topicality are just going to concede the read argument that they'll defend the what you see no matter what, which means that if we pick out of the plan, prove that the plan is a bad idea for achieving social change, it proves that you should be held accountable for that. I'll concede the arguments made at the bottom of this page about why discourse is important. The alternative would still affirm that discourse, which means if that is sufficient to solve, so is the alternative. Now, next is the case. I'm just going to isolate a couple things that were made by the TOC, that they are the politics of temporality and that they promote a discussion of anti-racism. Those are all things that are not tied to the plan and thus not a reason why the alternative solves the case, because those are all things that we would still affirm in the legalism critique. Now the cap argument, I'm not going for there. Now the cap argument, I'm not going for. I'll concede that the first link argument, the alternative, and the alternative fails. If the alternative fails as anti-racist, that means the arguments about why they create a strategy against capitalism is not offense for them. Now the contradictions are a voting issue argument. One is it's not a contradiction. Just because arguments are not completely consistent with each other doesn't mean they're in direct tension. Their argument is about when we contradict each other to present an advocacy that's worse for the minority people, which is not the context of which is not what our advocacy is. It's also uniquely Cuban, and we get a new Aff because we don't necessarily know what the 1AC's argument is, and we need to test it from different positions. Conditional ethics good. We will only go for one position, then 2 in our which solves our offense. We should be allowed to change our mind if we were allowed to change our mind. It proves the 1AC does nothing. It's key to pass both their method and their ethic. We didn't contradict ourselves, but we really challenged the way of going about their ethic. Argument of uncertainty is key to social change, embracing that is necessary for coalitional effectiveness. Sherlock in 12-something find troubles the epistemological arrogance and self-expectation that epitomizes under avoidance the one Americans remain unable to believe grievances relative from the comforts of not knowing that he doesn't know. Don't introduce some knowledge that he does not know effective coalition across inequalities might benefit epistemic among the privileged coalition work at the same amount of dangerous which might be embraced that pessimistic uncertainty as an indication of effectiveness rather than failed epistemic uncertainty helps the necessary independence of the privileged and oppressed in the struggle to eliminate injustice. Now is the critique. Look, they clearly just read a plan at the bottom of their 1AC to get out of their framework arguments that they were worried about. This is the opportunity cost of doing that, is that they do not really have a good defense of their plan. Now the critique outweighs the case. A is legal mirroring, using law as a restraint presupposes its legitimacy in the first place. The Aff places faith in law as a way of determining what is ethical, reaffirms all instances where the law says it's okay to be unethical, i.e. all of the codified racism in the status quo, the messed up prison system and drug and the violence that are going on that occurred. Now they legitimize that by saying that if the law is a neutral starting point for engaging in anti-racist struggle. Second is that they see agency. The contrast evidence as fixing the law presupposes the law rather than the individual needs to be fixed. The notion that fixing the law will fix our problems lets us defer problems onto policymakers, which also takes solvency. Even if they reform the law, they don't solve the violent forms of knowledge production that makes their impacts inevitable. Failing to confront the societal norms that make their impacts inevitable means the U.S. can't find other policies and simply recreates the impact under the underground, which is where previous root cause outweighs proximate cause. Their uniqueness claims are byproducts of the sovereign power of the unethical politics that are produced. Only starting points within the social sphere can solve. Now the framework arguments here. There wasn't really a clear interpretation of the role of that in this race. However, the only consideration is the consideration is the way you framed your advocacy or a critical intellectual of adding the 1AC voting means that the 1AC was an insufficient method of producing change. The burden of the negatives to disprove the Aff not to provide an alternative mechanism of change. The legal changes, the two state balance are intrinsically tied to systems of thought. Criticism is a prerequisite, even if the plan is good. More like an aid. If legal changes state balance can be successful, it's to challenge the systems of thought that these practices interrupt epistemology, such patterns, and until reconfiguration of the political, but also needs to be even more profound challenges the way that the discourse of representations are constituted recognition of the links in one another. Knowledge to must challenge by given the structure of intelligibility means by bringing what is silent and unclimpsed into the focus is essential. A criticism must establish rehabilitate itself at the level of epistemology rather than fixing it on a singular eruption of violence. Normative legal thought causes fault to scholarship and detaches us from proposals which trades off with activism and turns the case schlag-90. Normative legal thought are really incapable of being locked in playing this in game, so normative legal thought will lose the intellectual catch. It is likely to lead to a certain degree of disenchantment. Normative legal thought keeps us thinking into just one's individuals who has the power of this physical confusion and dangerous confusion of academics on its head, and in trust it is considering its own contributions, what it's missing in the normative legal thought is serious question of the relations for habit to pain and death. Normative legal thought understands itself as an outside of the pain of the death and charge in politics. This allows its own self and the righteousness and sense of accomplishment, egocentric rhetoric, rather than assisting in the understanding of political and moral situations, and to the way it reascribes the one fantastic understanding of the political, popular, the academical subjects who will themselves power themselves, but who are constructions of bureaucratic causes. When the fantasy is over, it can be mistakes, students become cognitively defenseless against bureaucratic institutions. The next argument is the permutation to do both. I will do the link to be honest about the 1AC, and then it talks about society. It talks for about 6 minutes of the 1AC about a discussion of racism, about why that is a good starting point. But then they changed their starting point by presenting the plan and assuming that the reason why there is racism is because the United States is doing some bad stuff with Cuban land. I'm not totally sure what that is in the first place. However, this operates under the assumption that if that law was reversed, they would all the societal structures that promote that racism would automatically resolve, which trades off with our focus on those systems in the first place. I'll do the substance of the permutation here. It's mutually exclusive. The alternative rejection of the time method of redrawing lines when second doesn't solve because it still includes a plan, which is what our offense is predicated off of. Incorporating frame of proof also proves it's irrelevant. If we disprove their method, you should vote neg because they failed to uphold their burden incorporating legal discourse into the alternatives interrogation, saying solvency, gore like an intervention must be integral to avoid complicity with institutionally determined discourse. Intervention on politics or organization may differ criticism and violence to emphasize specific abbreviation risking external complicity with the or anti-intervention may prioritize the current intentions within a narrative reliant upon the judgment concerning the good and evil. Either strategy is insufficient. It's not enough once the United States is sovereign right to punish related in the public discourse and say new violence against which was previously hidden. The danger of reproducing representational violence. The next argument is that their politics of infiltration are good. This is where the 2AC kind of misses the boat, because this is not an argument that says that the state should go away. It's rather a critique of you as debaters using the state as a starting point to create social change. You can create that social change just by saying that there are a bunch of messed up and racist structures in the status quo, which still allows them to learn about the government and learn about different racist laws, which is what their argument is. Which is what their argument is predicated off. Their author's faith in the rule of law ignores genealogical investigation that proves the inherent neutrality of law is only a mask for its ability to create its own exceptions. Conan 6. The government would be skeptical of legal culture, vigorous enforcement of laws made to accommodate assist and carry down emergence powers. The state of exception has proven restraint of legal limitations. The link between law and exception is intrinsic in politics. The power to declare exception is the same that invest the individual as a worthy legalism. The same administrative strategy. Conservative forces have been willing to ruthlessly invoke the exception to further their agenda, while the moderate left was paralyzed. Law called for law and denies the nature for law itself by missing its sovereignty, and attempts would further obscure this open distinction that was allowed the state of exception to operate. The law and legitimized sovereign power. The law bill produces legitimizes marginality and the exclusion. They make an argument somewhere about why the alternative is plan plus. I don't really get that argument because we're a pick out of your plan, and then you should be forced to defend the plan in your method of legal change. Otherwise, that's severance, which makes them a moving target already impacted above why that was a voting issue. They say that they are a stance against political action. One is that impact trends. The two piece of evidence that you read that are defensive using this defensive using politics. We read arguments about why you as a debater is creating the laws and means for social change is necessarily. And they say that they can't change the law, but you can change other stuff. That's our argument, because we're a critique of using the law as a legal starting point. Next argument is about avoiding discussions of politics are bad. We're not avoiding discussions of politics. We're just criticizing using the law as a neutral starting point for achieving as a neutral starting point for achieving social change. You're gonna read a new card. On this question. The affirmative additional procedure barrier has no legal holding because the sovereign can at any time ignore its own laws, which proves that their attempts to challenge racism fail. Stockdale and Topicality. They state of assumption characterized by the sovereign parliamentally constrained to the fact that they're free and exceptional. The logic apparent to scholarly embodies these characteristics and imperative best power in the hands of sovereign that must make determinations which due to their inherent futility can never contest this enable spectacular steps to preemptively acted upon. The imperative enables sovereign balance authorities to make invokes by care of imminent catastrophe and illegitimate legal acts as Al-Arki provides a useful example. Not only did it constitute an exceptional act since killing constitutes clear population of the of the administration tries to legitimize the strike by invoking the sovereign's mandate to obtain catastrophic future.
Alright, let's get right into it. Critique. Your first link is legal mirroring. The Aff facing the law as a way of determining what is ethical reaffirmed. Where does the Aff says the USFG is good?
You use the law as a starting point for creating social change.
Yeah,
I understand. You're saying that a current law is bad, but then you're using a political starting point to create that change. I.e. build a starting point.
So wait. But this we don't link to this link because we say the law's bad, right?
You're saying a current law is bad, however, you're using like the USFG, us making demands on the USFG as a starting point, which means you're just sort of a band-aid solution
Which
because you're
law do we
starting.
make?
What?
What law do we make?
What law do you make? Our argument is that your starting point for even repealing that law is problematic because you're just
putting your face in laws and creating a
You
new
need
law
to let me
is
finish answering the question. So, the 1AC, this proves the 1AC is merely a band-aid solution because you're using because you're criticizing
So this
the law.
is defense
Okay.
now.
No, not necessarily, because I made other arguments about why placing faith in legal changes, not necessarily new laws, but legal changes is a
Okay, where
problematic
does the
start.
1AC put 100% of their faith in legal change?
Your argument in the cross-ex where you say, oh, we think a discussion about racism is really important. Oh, but we also think the plan is really important. We think the plan is an outlet of solvency.
Your counter evidence, the author facing the rule of law ignores genealogical investigation. What's a genealogical investigation?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, in which part are you referencing?
Card tag, their author facing the rule of law ignores genealogical investigation. What is a genealogical investigation?
I think like genealogy.
Yeah, what is
he
it?
talking about like history? Like the.
Oh, wow, was that not the second contention of the 1AC where we interrogate only?
Yes, we say that that's okay. You just shouldn't be using.
Wait.
You should.
But I thought-
we
wait,
agree with that
I thought
portion of the
using-
1AC.
I thought using legal laws would crowd out those
No.
genealogical investigations.
Yes, that's the argument that the
Then
cardinal just
what did
read.
the
made.
1AC do?
We agree with the portion of the 1AC that is like a genealogical investigation.
Okay,
we
then
disagree with the
obviously we
portion of the
don't
1AC
ignore
that is the
genealogical
plan is outlet of
investigations,
solvency.
right?
No,
Okay.
because our argument says that one, by the audience, and two, your method
The
as
audience.
well, there are people watching the debate who would say
Wait,
that
they
that's
didn't
a
hear
bad
the
Okay.
discussion of orientation.
Well, that's not as so much as the argument as your method for change. We
All right.
think that
Next
the
question.
plan part of the
Yeah,
method
Tom.
co-opts the other part of the
Yeah,
method.
Tommy, so if I say a murderer should turn themselves in, am I complicit with the murder?
Murder should. I'm not really sure why that.
So if I say
question
the
is
United
necessary.
States federal government should do something, do I have to affirm everything the
I
United
think
States federal government has done?
I think the discussion becomes different when it's about the USFG as
Really?
opposed to when it's about just like a murderer.
Alright, so Tommy, I'm
Explain your arbitrary distinction you just made.
Okay, yeah, we read a few pieces of evidence in the context of using the laws of the USFG as a starting point for social change.
Alright, fine. I'm still kind of skeptical of what your alternative is. What
Yeah,
does
the
it do?
alternative is exactly what we talked about in cross-ex about all the productive discussions that the 1AC
Awesome,
smokes.
just having
We
discussion.
agree with that. We disagree with
Question,
the
where,
part.
where was the discussion in the 1NC?
Where was the discussion in the 1NC? I think this is a new argument that we need to rediscuss
argument,
what you
that's
said.
the alternative.
However, our argument, we agree with that part. We don't need to necessarily
So
need
just
to
agreeing
recreate
is
that.
able to solve for the discussion.
What?
Like,
We
where's
don't
your-
need to
where was the
recreate the
discussion?
discussion if we agree with it. That
Where
would
was
just be
your genealogical
repetitive and make this
investigation?
debate boring and dumb. We're going to take a second on prep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect.
That was so exciting. Can I grab the jump back?
Now we're gonna start. We're
Okay, fair enough.
So is it okay if I still ask you some questions?
Yeah, I guess.
So, I'm still confused about this alternative. Is it like the pick?
Michael's
We're
probably
using
going to ask the question.
So-
What's up?
So
everything,
does the alternative result in expropriated properties being taken away from
the alternative does not do the plan text, it does literally every other part of the 1AC.
Explain how. Where was your historical interrogation?
The arguments about why we need to recreate the discourse of the 1AC will be answered by the 1NAR. However, I think forcing us to reread all of the parts of the 1AC except for the plan is sort of silly because
You kinda
that
said
would
that
just create
discourse was important.
Yes, it's important, but it already happened once. We don't need to repeat it. That would just make this debate repetitive
Okay,
and boring and
explain.
dumb.
You agree with everything except for just the plan text, right?
Well, the plan text and whatever your solvency cards about why this is key to challenge the larger social
so
issues we discussed.
everything but the plan text in the one solvency card.
The plan text plus your method of using the solvency.
You want to be more specific, like point out parts?
The parts, I don't know the authors of the 1AC, obviously this is a new app. However, our alternative would reject both the plan text and using the plan text as part of your methodology. Whatever 1AC you think is a defense of using your plan text as part of your methodology is good. That's probably something we pick out of.
106 used, so we have 820.
Can I grab the jump?
So we don't know. It was all on
It doesn't matter which one.
827. How much did we have left?
Hey, Colin, how much time do we have left?
827.
Is it going papers on here? Thanks, Sarah.
Just like Colin Quinn. Actually, second row. You picked everything else.
I did pick up.
Fun. Like
249.
Is everyone good? Sweet. The counterpart solves the gap, is a plan for a human rights impact statement. The app happens only if it can be made consistent with human rights ratified by the United States. They've conceded that we solve that benefit improves U.S. human rights practices internationally, turns the case right to our beneficial form of economic engagement because the U.S. considers the consequences of participating in that form of engagement. Conditionality is good. The interpretation is weak and infinite. Now we get some conditional advocacies when you have a new app. Neg flux is key to test the app from different angles and check side by side. Input processing allows the app to interpret in relation to varieties of information which a key portable skill plan focus assesses the plan in different circumstances. Ideological polarization, it forces them to find the middle ground between the right and left wing. Time to is inevitable. Some people are faster. There's no way to stretch. You guys move across life contradictory worlds. There are only two standards for slave breaking debate, and there's no logical portable skills because it's not logical to be conditional. They broke a new app, which means both of these are inevitable because we don't have the ability to predict what the app will be, which means the debate will always be late breaking and it will never be logical because we don't know what you're going to say, and we would know what you're going to say in a real debate. Now, the next argument is that certain meeting counterpoints are voting issue. I think new apps also justify this because we have to have a way to engage with the counter-information is a negative condition. If they have a solvency evidence tied to the topic mechanism, we meet the 1C4C evidence establishes a strategy of responsible engagement that's functionally distinct from economic engagement. They consider the piece of evidence since its different strategies solves after around limits, counterpoints to be manageable, predictable, and based in the literature. Test the res forces the app to have desirability of definite action, which test result, a test which is indicated an obligation or duty. Testing is good. It's educational because it forces clash about cool questions of resolution and fairly divides ground between both sides. Topic education it needs discussion, evidence side. The focus of what's made to with these all debate. There's long-standing conflicts by legislation against the right stance, also to debates whether consistent with democratic principles. Conditional. The app ensures the app ground and guarantees delay and non-proportional absence of the plan. Tons of ground exists. Maker 9. The article examines HRA. There's a vast variety of relevant theoretical material. Key to policy analysis. The counterpoint starts better economic engagement, and that's key to rational decision making. Use better education. Debate provides net flux necessary to make new apps and capture unpredictable add-ons. We need the topics that bias, fusion, generics, and this hard debate is good debate courses. Strategic decisions makes debate more fun. They must have the counterpoint that makes it impossible for the app to meet sound of voting issue. Reject the argument and not the reject the argument and not the team. The next piece of evidence is that when we condition Cuba, it's bad. Nothing about the counterpoint conditions Cuba. The counterpoint is a human rights impact statement in the U.S., which means it conditions the U.S. to make sure that the policy is consistent with U.S. human rights accords, which is what every piece of 1C evidence outline. Permutation to the counterpoint severs the plan. It includes the possibility that the plan isn't done. The result of the review is by definition more uncertain to the app. It's not a consult counterpoint. Excluding this based on arbitrary theoretical arguments undermines the core purpose of the top mechanism and its certainty increase must be made at HFC. And 4, the word increase is used in the as a function rather than the directive obligation to increase in the workable engagement must be unconditional. Specified engagement is building close ties engagement details and economic conditionality counters the linking to the economic political conditions engagement applies high to the restricted time conditionality attached to the string substantial means unconditional words phrasing for substantial means noted which not can be able to use the potential real at present time should is mandatory need to 5 should be used to set obligation duty imperative and obligatory sense PS should be certain unconditional key to net ground key to every day set policy exploitation potential line implementation line conditionality means the act should support best key arguments key to app ground guarantees durability makes debates about should not would otherwise the act always proves on own like it severs normal means it's a plan it's a factor in human rights considerations that's forcing no remains to govern competition it's based in literature. We read a piece of evidence about that the 2EC didn't respond to the chicken and new answer the 1ER it's used to block strategies voting issue for deterrent destroys 1C strategy makes all counterplans not competitive. Next argument is that Cuba says no it doesn't apply the counterplan doesn't engage an external actor which is given binding approval power of the plan and merely conditions engage around adherence to U.S. human rights standards Hunt and 6 impact assessments of spirit to have sorts of policies and their right government's opportunities to improve before they're adopting the counter human rights the process of government making modifications right to human rights that's the HRS the mechanisms helps governments to adopt these policies permutation do both it's impossible the counterplan is less than applying exclusive certainty implementation allows modifications links to that benefit that's 1C4C left from McGonagall's it's power binding to review it's key force in 2 doesn't engage with the economic integration work it's normal economic interest behavior strongly increases the constructive engagement the economic interest of governments to engage human rights abuses and engagement enhances the repressive government's capacity to find out liberalizing developments it's intrinsic it adds a non-binding review neither in the plan with the counterplan which is the voting issue allows them to get out of office especially since I'm pretty sure that the text affirmative both included lifting the embargo which is obviously additional to the app that doesn't solve a binding review is key Mirani and 70 current human rights law encompasses the laws of conduct the results incorporates the option with legal economy drawing with abuses for reasonable measures and results in vague and unenforceable initiatives which are perceived as toothless paper tigers and public questions whitewashing on abuses persist it solves certainty the plan must be done immediately now key to all ground based on time sensitive arguments Colin 6 advocates might build human rights into the process of decision making so that rather than after the family evidence concerned efforts should be pursued to get access to human rights seriously. It's also important to work from the inside out to promote early consideration of cases like interview of the social critical importance and the possibility supports the outside of greater sensitivity. It also doesn't solve the spillover. That benefit is genuine is key to set the long-standing precedent, which means that it solves human rights in other cases. The next argument is that human rights are racist, and they don't have a piece of evidence on this question. Contemporary human rights review held higher standards back in '98. They're now in place from George Constitutional norms that international human rights needs to maintain involvement in religion as forbidden artifacts and power in the state of civil society. The community perpetuations remains inherently valuable to non-human rights cultures. Human rights successfully appeals to an ideal human option. Never human cultural concerns new frontier relative to legitimate how this criteria increasingly discredit attempt-based power and rule and incurring violence, institutionalized imperialism, colonialism, racism, patriarchy, marked and patriarchy. The discourse argument. We think that discourse is important and we're not disagreeing with the discourse. However, we should not have to repeat everything that the 1AC says. It produces terrible debates where we have to disagree with the entire act. We should be able to choose points of disagreement. It produces more productive debate where we aren't forced to say something like racism bad, but instead to challenge their method and have a more in-depth discussion of the actual process.
827.
It should be at the desk under your name. It's 2120. I'll go down and do it right now.
What else? Is there soup? I ordered
It's soup, ravioli, and Cajun chicken pasta.
Alright, stop right.
You all sign for me, or do I just sign this?
Yeah, that'd be good.
634.
What's it called? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll sit.
Chicken or
Sarah's up here somewhere. I asked for one piece of
salad,
Just in case you're going.
and the ravioli.
Maybe we'll have to drop
I'll kill you.
Thank you.
I'll kill you, kids.
I have a ravioli and this is your salad. Can you sign? Are you Andrea? Yeah. She's probably downstairs. Okay. I will take this over. Okay.
Are we ready?
I'll leave it right here.
Great, thanks. Oh, okay.
Alright. Y'all ready for it?
Oh, I didn't get a napkin.
Yeah.
Hey, here. Actual. Actual.
I like how all of these happen at once.
Alright. Y'all ready for order?
Yeah.
Give me like 3 seconds.
Sorry.
Okay.
I don't know why I said that.
Yes.
Okay. Econ. Economic racism. Rating. The T page. Contradictions with on cap, am I correct?
Yeah.
Cool with that. The K with the overview. And then the counterpoint.
I found
That's the case big O is the one, or is
I'm just gonna put them
the
there.
first case.
Alright, anyone not ready? Okay. It was a big mistake conceding that discourse is key because you have dropped that the affirmative is the only one who starts the discussion of racism. The economic racism page was completely conceded, which means that the affirmative is the only one that answers the Mills evidence because we started the discussion of racism and the memory evidence that says you must be able to mitigate the context of racism. We're the only ones who do a genealogical interrogation of history, which is the reason why we solve the Topicality evidence is important here because the Topicality evidence just that we only need to question the sad notion of U.S. history, which is the reason why we fundamentally don't into Legalism K. The framing page, they drop all the stuff about temporality. Oops, they don't come to grips with temporality, the role of time, coloniality, attempts to erase and obliterate their past by subordinating everything with politics of the future. The voice of the past are drawn by false views of emergency. Instead, we can make the past as a set of resistance of active memory. Instead of museum monuments, that's Vasquez evidence. This trumps all the impacts like human rights because it's an eight-party question because every aspect of daily life shape how we interact with time like the Legalism evidence says so. Now, even if the human rights evidence is true, it's participating in politics that we should reject because maybe prediction or sampling of some value, but only Vasquez evidence contextualize the impact to a role of the ballot. It's the only card that weighs the difference of role of the ballot. The two implications for the impact versus the it is not true because it is situation in the future without looking back in the past. The second argument is the back forward politics because of the terminal impacts. Also, it kills the K because the starting point must be revisiting past events before making a declaration of a future emerging. What type of cheating while in this investigation does Tommy do? Zero. That's the answer. Vasquez comparatively outweighs the politics of the past versus the politics of the future. But like I said, it's a prime because the perception that chase or takes the future. Even if the alt sounds super awesome, it is subordinating the progressive colonial narrative of the value. Now go to the Topicality page. You can see that discourse is key means that you're liable for the entire performance of the negative, aka their absence of hysterical mitigation and their contradictions. Let's go there now. The latent contradiction to clear. The United States federal government is capitalist. If you were advocating a capital that puts U.S. values upon other countries, another link is using the bureaucratic bullshit of the capital while comparing it with the legalism critique. Oh, these are double terms to each other, and also the terminal impact of racism will drop because contradictions to state white supremacy. White supremacy operates by becoming totalizing force. The link to this argument. The U.S. argument doesn't justify this because the U.S. first are good as key to research and innovation because they disincentivize states to do it. They're only wanting to another saw because they have already participated in the racist discourse. The uncertainty argument could disjoin with solve this argument. You can still be uncertain without contradiction. We can do whatever you want without contradiction. Now go to Legalism K. He does not have a clear impact on that legit to obliterate this. So we have a clear impact because you cannot get real economic data against Cuba without actually doing the plan in the context that a single one was constituted. We don't link to the legitimacy link because we disavow the United States federal government. Say it is messed up in the class school. We are not trying to fix policy analysis. We are not a policy analysis. We are a policy calling out. There's a big difference. You don't solve root cause of our problem because you didn't articulate how the root cause of economic racism is brought down by state action. The violence tied to prerequisite arguments are also not responsive. The strong evidence covers some answers. The covers some as a simulation of science and public around following part of the companion of the person who has basic government generally by teaching to stand nothing they can do causes that ever makes any difference in public life. The way role playing while they imagine government action or visualizing role playing teachers to cover the language power that they paves away from political actions. The random social movement organized. These are with and role playing to provide critical cause of power. We will pursue optimal social will. We'll value incredible standard with graduation. That I only to extend two arguments of criticism. First, the permutation. The permutation does not link because none of the links assume us doing negative state action. The piece of advocacy reason is not responsive because it does not say given life face of the state. Also, it's not a conscious cumulative policy, which is reason why it does not weigh. The permutation, the alternative is plan plus because we already negative state action. Even if you do the alternative and the state is completely gone, that means that we will still suffer. Now, you said the Williams argument. You may still vote on this Williams argument because you are trying to disavow a politics of infiltration. The Williams evidence says that we actually learn about the state to learn the taxes of oppression so that we can get our hands on the levers of power, which is the only way to solve our eternal impact. Now, going through the counterline. The counterline does not solve. First, extend the discourse argument to the very bottom because even if you don't have to describe the entire way yourself in ways that you still have to do some form of racial analysis. Now, we said the conditionality voting issue. You said some conditionality, big mistake. Standard interpretation, pure conditionality, also two conditional options. So your offense, because of our offense is inferential processing, because it is illogical to have some conditional options. That could mean infinite, at least a slippery slope, which is the reason why they could literally read 10 conditional options when the concept of receive. There is internal strategy because 10 conditional options would do a new F does not justify some conditional options regardless. Now, he said that's the because the complex that could be almost certainly means your back because it still is the affirmative of that ground. They could be almost certainly MEC. Now, extend the permutation to the counterline. Your definition is not enough because economic engagement does not have to be unconditional. That is the only reason that's not. I report supposed to economic engagement, some engagement contains condition made for engagement to proceed with no conditionality. Also, resolve is not certain. That's what just how I used to resolve to still eliminate. Now, the should does not mean immediate. That's the should comes to us and should to its resignation using no speech, travel, election will land. Now, increase these become great. That's encouraged us. The increased rates become greater in number of larger quantity. Now, extend the argument that human rights is raised. The logic of human rights has been used for the U.S. to invade other places. We have a card to answer. Captain 2003, image on rule, anarchy, chaos, recycle, slavery, race, and infinity, only clear, discrimination, American establishment, new heights, paradigm, claim, uniqueness, university, nature, theological nature, inevitably, larger claim, inevitably, finally extend argument that it is racist to condition the economic embargo off of Cuba because that's what led to the oppressive conditions within the first place. The fact that the embargo still is proves that human rights are not banned in question, which is the reason why the international lab we internally to it. Finally extend the same argument. It's schooling evidence that Cuba will not take any sort of conditions, even if you condition within the U.S. If they perceive the conditions, they will still say no.
Is 40 something?
I got that soup, but I don't know if I want to eat it. Oh, thank you so much.
Charger out of the bar.
Mm-hmm.
5, yeah.
Hi, Chris. I got this soup, but doesn't it look kind of weird?
Yeah.
Well, that's like the cheese in it, but do you know they put bread in front of onions? Do they usually?
Yeah. Yes.
You didn't know that?
No, now I don't know her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye. Stay safe.
I mean, honestly, this looks really weird.
God, that makes me want to cry.
What, the soup? What is this? Haven't you had French onion soup before and it not look like this?
No, no.
I don't really think I want to eat that. I feel bad.
Oh my God, that's so crazy.
Yeah, where should I put it? I can have a piece of bread.
Yeah, it's so good.
Do you want my soup?
I don't really want it. After this,
I thought it was French onion, but I haven't had it in so long. I think I was wrong. I forgot what it was. Do you like one? May I borrow some? Oh. Oh, really? Thanks. Oh, is it Caesar? It's like Italian? Oh, it doesn't have Caesar dressing on it. Like the red. Because I hate the English. That one, yeah.
There's no, it's like,
I'm just thinking something outside. Do you guys want bread?
No. So the order is going to be the human rights counterplan, followed by the CAP critique, then the legalism critique.
Can you say it one more time?
Yeah. Count. Okay. Counterplan. CAP critique. Legalism critique. Okay. Everybody good? Okay, are we all set? 3 conditional hypotheses are justified when the affirmatives can do that's key to negative flexibility because we don't know necessarily what is the best option the one NC because we don't exactly know what the one NC's argument is in its development throughout the debate is you can uniquely preserve our often straight negative ground affirmative ground is now because the proliferation of new affirmatives negative which means negative ground is external offense and proceeds their education offense because it shapes the way we have the debating session which reflects education is not illogical because policymakers will often advocate different proposals and there's no direct contradiction of the arguments in the 2 NC there are interpretation of 2 conditional hypotheses was new but also links to all of their offense because that still allows for a form of contradictions, i.e. the cap can despite dissent to view debate through the lens of reasonability. If we debate unmatchable, you should not vote against us. Now, I'm not going for the count plan. I can see the permutations to test combination. The only argument I need to answer is that human rights are racist. We read a piece of evidence to answer this argument in the one NR that says that that says that the specific process of the count plan ensures that that does not happen. One is this was a new card in the 1AR when the TOC was only analytic. They should not be allowed to do that because it is sandbagging. However, this also assumes that we are using that to justify intervention, which we are not doing, especially because we are doing the plan, which is to proceed that racists say they proceed that the sanction. Now, the cap critique, we did not say explicitly there was no racist part of the one in the one in C, which means that we are not necessarily held accountable for that. Second is they've conceded new Affs justify this argument. The second is that they've conceded new Affs justify this argument because we can contradict ourselves because we don't exactly know what they're going to start to go for. And the one in C, we read a piece of evidence that they concede that says that allowing us to change our minds and they come to different conclusions. But otherwise, what is the outlet for Aff solvency? They concede the links to this too because they will always make different arguments and strategically extend some arguments over the others. Now, the critique itself, they have conceded the affirmative debate, which means it's solely a question of whose method is better, which means you do not get to weigh the material consequences of the plan. It's simply a referendum on your methodology. They've conceded an external impact, which is the agency argument made by our one in C evidence that says that it allows us to say that the reason why there is racism is the Helms-Burton Act, not the reason why there is, and it allows us to blame the Helms-Burton Act, not the social relations that create that impact in the first place, which means the Act simply removes that, but does not challenge the higher structures of social relations, which means that they're necessarily only a symptom focus, which precludes our focus on root causes in the first place. They say that we can't do the plan. Yes, we don't do the plan, and that is what our offense is predicated off of the first place. Their best solvency deficit to the alternatives is reasons why we don't solve their discourse. We don't need to recreate the one in the one and C to solve your discourse. We can simply agree with that. They concede the education arguments made by the one and C about why productive debate depends on finding points of agreement and agreement, because otherwise we would just have to recreate the one and C. That would just be a boring debate because we would all be in agreement on it. They would all be agreeing on it. But this argument also assumes that there were racist parts of the one and C's discourse, which there most certainly were. And even if there isn't, we should be allowed to change our minds and disagree with that later down the road, which is key to make the affirmative have the affirmative factualized change. Now they Rita Cumber said that the Stone argument, the chance to our Schlag Evans. I think our Schlag Evans is much better, and it says that, and it's only that it is in the context of speaking as us debaters trying to produce social change about why that is necessarily bad, because it allows us to think that the only outlet for us projecting our personal agency is via making demands on the state rather than things like the production of social change in the first place, which our evidence is necessarily a better outlet for solvency. The next argument is the permutation. They concede most of the link debate, which means this is obviously a severance. We're obviously pretty clear that the alternative is just a pick out of the plan, and the permutation necessarily includes the plan. Otherwise, the permutation with severance, which they concede, is a voting issue for dodging negative offense. They want to see us talks about how we need to analyze broader structures of racism. However, they prevent their ability to analyze the broader structures of racism by reading the plan at the very end, which makes us think that, oh, if the Helms-Burton existed and if the Helms-Burton were repealed, that would solve racism, which detaches our focus on those broader powers in the first place. The argument is that the plan is negative state action. That is exactly what our argument is, because it proves that they are simply a band-aid solution where they say that, hey, the Helms-Burton Act is racist. If we remove the Helms-Burton Act, that would combat racism, which looks at our argument. The piece of evidence to answer the permutation into and C, I think, responds to this fairly well, and says that it is simply a method of redrawing the lines, which does nothing to actually change, because it doesn't focus on the social relations, i.e. the discursive analysis that is necessary. That was part of 1AC Crossix. They say that politics is key to learn about the state and work within it. One is assumes that you're going to be a policymaker when you grow up, which I don't think is necessarily true, because I don't think all of us are going to be policymakers. You don't have a stable framework interpretation, which means just default to the question that the only possible thing that we can do in this round is challenge our personal relationships and our personal discourse, etc. Second is that they can't go for this argument because they've conceded two pieces of evidence that are about Gomben's theory about why the state of exception means the law can always dodge it. They dodge itself, which means even if they live to the Helms-Burton Act, there will always be some other forms of law that would just circumvent that and say that there is some other justification for racist intervention in Cuba, which means even if you were to make the plan happen, that would not necessarily solve anything because the law is always already valid in the first place. Second is the argument is just that people should learn about the government, but that's not a defense of role-playing or why you should focus on the plan itself. Look, no defense of why the plan is key to solve it. Vote neg on a 1% risk of offense.
34.
That's a lot of butter.
Here, that's
What's your last argument of contradiction?
Contradiction is good. Yeah, we should be allowed to change our mind. Otherwise, the one you see has no factual ability to do anything.
Oh, I got something written out there called we link to this.
Oh, it was probably we don't link to this because there's
Okay.
no risk as part of the one incident. Yeah. Oh, Michael, I think you're actually the last argument. Like the you link to it argument was like.
Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
it was like the you extend some arguments and not others, which means you're also not perfectly consistent. Yeah.
You should like a never-ending supply.
They're in the hospital district.
It's gonna be.
Alright.
Yeah, I got it.
It's too intense.
You should have seen the other guy.
Yeah,
The other guy's.
the guy's in the hospital.
Yeah, right across
He might be. Okay. It's gonna be case economic racism framing, capitalism, state.
Dude, don't die.
Ready? There is a problem with the two nerds go for the stated plan, but never names that political system. This is the Mills card, how that political system is always something that we never mentioned the fact that they never went on to the economic racism card should be a clear indicator that their discourse, their performance in this round does not break down the legal system, does nothing to solve for vote for it because the neck has no office. No, like, look, they only have cards by only using the USFG. But when you look at the 1AC, you realize that we critique the 1AC United States federal government and say that they are bad, but they can do negative state action to get rid of this racist that go on to the framing. You have dropped time again. Temporality determines, and actually it determines the law. The UFG does stuff based on what impacts are coming for us. And they say that quotes like they put on the hell burden that because they thought Cuba was expropriated land that we had to get just and timely compensation. This is a prerequisite to the critique because you cannot just say we are a critique of legal reform without understanding how the passive orientation, how those legal institutions came to be without understanding temporality oriented aesthetic. The Lega and basket cards were seen once again, which means that their impacts of agency do not matter because those are all futuristic or orientations on what we can do in the future. However, our orientation in the past is more important to understand how the legal institution, this is the root cause, because how you cannot critique legalism without understanding how the legal institution came to be, not capitalism. There's a problem when you concede onto that discourse man. However, you have informed us that the state can do a good thing by doing contradictions. The reason why the discourse man they concede to come from first is contradictions and solvency definite to the critique. This is not a theory argument, a substantive one. By the negative team's discourse, they concede that the capital links more to the critique. The Aff is purely negative state action, but the affirmative is ratifying human rights treaties. In the U.S., those treaties are racist, even if it's not to justify intervention, because the notion of human rights makes us think something is alright with the band-aid solution, which is exactly what the K is critiquing. Two, its external racist impact. The not-very intrinsic evidence says that the white supremacy use contradiction to said statements, so this is how it becomes a totalizing universal force that was connected by the 1AR, and you conceded by the 2NR, and justified your actions. Now, new apps don't justify their one. Not knowing what to do isn't an excuse for being unethical. This is a substantive argument, not theory. Two, they draw that new apps are theoretically justified because instead of reaching an argument innovation to change your mind, it's not responsive. One, you can change your mind without contradiction. Two, there is no impact to being able to change your mind. Reason that way. Also, we don't link to this when none of the arguments are contradicting. Stating some of it is a contradiction. Also, that was a conditionality. You can examine two conditional options without being contradictory. We just say that you cannot affirm the state. There's a problem when your alternative said we should not use legal reform, but you say the legal reforms can be useful and valuable in something such as human rights treaty. That complicates alternative solvency, and you should be really skeptical going to the state. Now, we have answered the framework arguments. We meet these framework arguments because our method of using the United States framework as a process of infiltration, you have to drop the balls on the Williams card, which is that we need to tactical pleasant mental evidence that people to infiltrate the organs of power to